What's up? This is Matt Ramsey with the Octave Higher East Voice Studio in Austin, Texas. And this is Octave Higher TV, episode 10. And we are talking about how voice lessons can affect your speaking voice. To learn more, stay tuned. First, before we jump into it, I really wanted to say thank you so much for watching up until this point. We've got to our 10th episode today, and I'm super excited to talk about more questions that our students have. So this question is actually kind of a combo between a couple of questions that students have asked. I had a great student named Matt Zhu, who is Chinese and has immigrated to the United States, and he was asking me about altering his accent through voice training. Additionally, my good buddy and perennial student, Brett Randell of Denver, Colorado, by way of Austin, was talking to me about how he could tell, even English singers start to sound American or, kind of lose their accent when they start singing. And you can kind of hear that with bands like Adele, maybe Radiohead a little bit. And I think there's been kind of this groundswell of interest as to why people are really interested in learning more about the speaking voice and how you alter that through vocal training. So there's a number of ways that this can happen. The most obvious to me, and perhaps the most effectual for those of you out there who are trying to change your speaking voice, is increasing the power of your speaking voice. This is a big one. This is one that people talk about all the time. Now, the way that we increase the power of the speaking voice has to do with what the vocal folds are doing inside of the larynx. Okay, so the only way that the vocal folds make any sound at all is by resisting air. So they're resisting that air, they're closing, and that resistance is creating sound. And basically, the more the pressure and the more the resistance, the louder the sound, the more volume you're going to get. Now, a lot of people, they come in, they're kind of talking like this, a little bit softer. And it's really easy to see after doing a real quick assessment that they need to work on some of the muscles that are controlling that closing motion of the vocal folds to resist the air. So just by nature of working on their chest voice a bit, thickening things up, allowing those vocal folds to close a little bit more effectually has a big effect on their voice. So, something even as simple as like, na 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 na. Na, 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 in kind of a guy's range, that right there can actually thicken up the vocal folds enough and that they start closing more efficiently. Additionally, that bratty sound is going to help them close up their vocal folds a little bit more. So the result being that you get a louder, thicker, more full sound. Or I shouldn't say thicker, that's kind of the point of the bratty sound, is to kind of thin it out a little bit. But it's actually allowing those vocal folds to close more, which is going to create more volume. Now, as we get to a more normal sound like gug 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 gug, still encouraging that depth of vocal fold that we're looking for, just like we had with the na na, but instead of using that bratty sound, we're just using that G consonant to kind of allow the vocal folds to close up. Now, there's lots of other different ways that voice lessons can improve your voice. Additionally, a lot of people talk about they're trying to find a comfortable speaking voice for them. A lot of people come in, they're talking really, really, really low, and this is like a habit they've picked up over time, that to sound big and confident, they kind of tighten everything up and lower their larynx and get all this extra tension in their voice and push a lot more air in order to allow for, that bigger, fuller sound. So if we were to take that same voice and say, okay, well, it sounds to me like you're singing pretty low, or, even talking at a really low tone. What if we raise it up to about here? The dog walked down the street. That's a more comfortable range for that specific person. Me personally, I have a higher speaking voice for a guy, so for me, probably a little bit higher. The dog walked down the street. Yeah, that feels really good to me. That feels really natural, as opposed to trying to keep everything super low and super boomy and pouty and using my big man voice. Now, this happens a lot with females as well, in that they're speaking maybe a little bit softer than they want to, or they're trying to sound a little bit lower, or they're trying to sound really high and try not to use any of that low part of their voice. So this is a really cool thing that you can kind of start to work with, optimizing pitches for people's speaking voice. Now, to get to Matt's question, being how do you alter an accent through voice training? When you think about singing, you think about sustaining speech. So you're talking, but you're talking on a pitch, and you're usually sustaining it for longer than when you're just speaking. So if I were to sing this phrase, right, I'm sustaining each one. I'm not going, if I were to sing this phrase, if I were to sing this phrase, I'm actually kind of holding out on each note a little bit longer. So what's happening there is I'm starting to focus a little bit more on the vowels than just the consonants. The consonants being those hard sounds that are kind of splitting up that beauty of all the vowels in between. I'm trying to sing this phrase. You can kind of hear the I'm trying to sing this phrase, rather than I'm trying to sing this phrase, where you hear all the consonants kind of chopping up all the air as it's coming out of the vocal folds. So by focusing more on the vowels rather than just the consonants, the vowels are so common across so many different languages. We've got a, e, o, u in Spanish and English. We've got that a and the e thrown in there as well. And lots of Western languages are going to have that very similar kind of set of vowels. So when you start to sustain those, you're going to notice that they're starting to sound really, really similar, and those accents sort of kind of diminish in the process. So in regard to Brett's question about, why is it that Adele sounds, American when she sings, it's really because she's sustaining all of those notes for so long that you don't really pick up the inflection in her voice so much, because the consonants aren't there to kind of split everything up and make everything sound super jolty and jaded and have all that extra stuff in there. So voice training can absolutely help with that too. Primarily when I'm working with the singing voice, we're working on working with people's different registers, i.e. chest voice, head voice, the place in the middle, the bridge, all these things. When we're working with people's speaking voices, normally we're working about trying to optimize those vowels that they're using, trying to correct anything that we hear in there, and also trying to optimize for that perfect pitch for their own speaking voice so that they're not just too low all the time or too high all the time, but they're starting someplace in the middle where they have a place to go down, or starting someplace in the middle where they can go up if they want to. Make sense? Hope so. It has been a blast filming 10 episodes so far. I'm looking forward to the next 10. This is Matt Ramsey with Octave Higher East, and I hope you have a great week. Bye.